Hi there, I'm Wendy McCallum, burnout and alcohol coach and wellness expert, and you're listening to Bite Size Balance, where everyday extraordinary women share their stories, expertise, and wisdom, all in the name of lifting each other up and creating a better life by design. Whether it's wellness, career, relationships, food, alcohol, mindfulness, hormones, or parenting, we talk about all things women's balance. If your life looks great on paper, but it still feels like something's missing, you're in the right place. Welcome to Bite Size Balance.
Hello, spontaneous podcast episode by your co-hosts here, Wendy and Sarah.
I put my glasses on so I look like a different person.
Okay. If you're watching the video, you'll see Sarah's wearing her reading glasses, which I encourage her to wear more regularly, but which she resists for whatever reason. Total tangent there. Not important to anything. Okay. Here's what we want to talk about. It is December and it feels like a really good time for us to come on and just give a little refresher on what really matters when it comes to
Holidays.
Yeah. Holidays and your wellness and balance and all of that. So we have a bunch of things that we want to talk about. And we just want to hopefully remind you guys through this podcast that you are in charge and you get to create. I always talk about you get to create the life that you want for yourself, but you definitely get to create the holiday season that you want for yourself. You are perfectly able to say no to things, to set some boundaries, to set some intentions, and then take the steps that you need to take in order to have the holiday that you want for yourself, whatever that looks like. But
can we back up on that?
We sure can.
When you say you're in charge of creating the holiday that you want, I actually think that a lot of women think that they have an idea of what they want because it's been their tradition, or they've been told this, or there's pressure from relatives, or that they have this kind of, I call it in our family, we call it the happy homemaker kind of Christmas. Like,
right.
You know, they have this idea. And so when you think create the Christmas you want, I think that breaking down what you actually feel like you need from the holidays,
you have to
as
step
opposed
back.
to like what you're being told that you want.
This is where the intention piece comes in. And I think this is where you need to start. And if you haven't done this yet, I really encourage you to take this step. Ask yourself what really matters to you when it comes to the holidays. What really matters? Yeah. Again, not what other people think matters, not what you think you should do or what should matter to you, but what actually matters to you. What are you actually hoping? What, in a perfect world, how would you go through this couple week period and how would you come out the other end? Like, what do you want from this? Like Sarah was saying before we hit record on this podcast, for many women, this is the only chance they've had for months to actually relax. This is actually a break. And I know that for years I was guilty of basically taking on the holidays as a second job,
a project.
Yeah, it was a huge project and it just it consumed all my time. And then at the end of the holidays, I would feel even more burnt out, not remotely relaxed. And frankly, I would rely on wine to get me through it. It was, one of the main reasons. I guess it was a self-fulfilling prophecy, but it was my reward at the end of a long day, but also the only thing that was for me during the holidays. I was spending all my time taking care of all this other stuff. So what do you really want? What do you want, Sarah, from the holidays this year?
I want plenty of rest. I want to let go of the ticker tape in my head. I do have to move my office, so that's going to take a little bit of time, but for the time around that, I really, like, in an ideal world, I would be able to put on my chapters reading slippers, socks, and pajamas and cozy up on the couch with a duvet and literally read all Christmas and not have to do anything else. I mean, that would be ideal. And I have no real investment in whether or not we have a Christmas dinner or whether or not I want my kids to enjoy the gifts that we've gotten. Well, I've gotten, because I think that often falls to the women. And I like some peace in my house. If I could have anything, I would create an environment where the kids are not agitated, that everybody is just kind of chilling.
And how often do those activities or traditions that are on our list of shoulds for Christmas create the opposite of peace? I mean, I can think of so many examples where someone just lost their ever-loving mind because I told them that we had to decorate the tree together that night, or it was the night that we were gonna, do, I don't know, go look, see the Christmas lights, drive around and see the Christmas lights or whatever. So
the tree is a perfect example in our house because my husband comes from a family where traditions like that weren't a big thing. And I come from the opposite, where my mother tried to make everything perfect all the time. And what I've noticed is that over all the years that we've been having a tree for Christmas, that my agitation around, now we have to get the tree. Kids like to go get the tree, but they like to put it up, and someone puts it up, not me.
Yeah.
And then I get the box of decorations out, and 20 seconds later, nobody's putting the decorations on the tree.
I know. And then you're yelling. This is always happening at our house.
This is a fun time. We're
fun.
having fun.
And also, could you please scatter the ornaments so that they're balanced on the tree and they're not all in one zone, and it turns into a battle. Someone is, especially now that we have teenagers, someone is sitting on the couch with their phone and one of us is yelling at them, and it's not fun. But what I have learned over the years, because, my goals for the holiday season are similar to yours, except for this year is the first year ever that we're not going to be here.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So we're going away for Christmas this year, and we're going somewhere where it's warm, which is great. I'm so excited. And, I'm obviously very grateful that we can do this, but it's actually feels so great to me because there's no pressure to do anything I don't want to. In fact, we were talking the other day about whether we'd even bother getting a tree this year. And I've decided that I want one, but the reason I want it is because my kids are in grade 12. This is their last year, potentially. Is their last year living with us, at least for a little while. And it might be our last year in this family home that we're in. So I think we'll probably do it, but I'm not sure I care whether they participate in that. I just want to have it up.
Yeah.
And I love to do it. So I'm happy to do that.
Right. And if you love to do it, then that's great. Last year we put up the tree and we only put the lights on. And we didn't because the kids were not interested. And I thought, well, I'm not going to decorate the tree just to undecorate it.
No, especially if
do this.
No one else cares.
Yeah, nobody cared.
Yeah. So I think setting the intention is a really important place to start. What do you really want out of this vacation? I am so looking forward to, and in fact, the fact that we're going away is going to make this easier, I think, just being with my kids, which is a very unusual occurrence. They're like rare. What's the word for the species that are going extinct? Yeah. I never see them. It's a rare sighting when there's a teenager in the house, and I don't spend very much time talking to them or just hanging out with them. Certainly not, without a bunch of technology and devices going and stuff. So I'm just really looking forward to forced confinement with my teenagers and nothing really else to do. No real schedule, no, nothing that needs to be done. That's my goal, is really to get as much time as I can that feels like good, fun time with them. And I know from experience that forcing them to do activities and things is not the way to do that. Yeah. It just backfires. Yeah. So
the feeling of the thing that I'm learning is that this idea that now we're going to play a family game. Now we're going to do this thing, and we're going to watch this movie tonight, and we're going to do it. It just backfires because I feel some pressure to have these events, have these things happen for family bonding or whatever it is. And unless it's spontaneous, it's kind of like the responsive versus spontaneous desire.
If you don't know what we're talking about, which you won't actually, because by this episode's going to air before the episode that we did with Dr. Lori Brotto, which was about women's desire in midlife. And we talked about the difference between responsive and spontaneous desire. Spontaneous desire being like just being overcome with desire
Yeah.
out of the blue, and responsive desire being able to feel desire, but only in response to some other emotional or physical stimulus. Right. It's exactly the same thing with kids, and especially teenagers. I think it has to feel it has to feel a little bit, it has to feel spontaneous. The responsive bit is harder for teenagers. I think they just don't want to invest the time required for that. Yeah. So I've definitely learned that lesson over the years. So one thing I wanted to talk about was, if you are already feeling stressed about the holidays, which many of you probably are by the time this airs, I want to suggest that you take a look at all the things that you think you need to do. So write it all down. What are these tasks or things that are coming up? Whether they're things you have to attend or things you have to do yourself, write them all down. And then take a long, hard look at that list and ask yourself how many of those things are actually in alignment with your intention. How many of those things are going to get you closer to your goals versus take you further away from whatever goals you have for yourself and your family for the holidays. Another really great tactic is to take a look at that list and divide it into things that would be nice to do or have and things that need to be done. So, what are the things that, well, it'd be really nice if, somebody baked gingerbread cookies from scratch, but that doesn't need to happen. And I could just go to Sobeys and buy some gingerbread men if I needed them. And that would solve that problem. So splitting those things up, and sometimes we don't think about that. We just assume if it's on the list, then it's a need to happen thing. And it's such a helpful exercise to actually filter out the stuff that's just like, well, it'd be nice if that happened, but it probably is also going to cause me incredible stress if I try to do all of the things on this list. Let those things go. Put them on a different list. Just work from the list. And then the second thing that Sarah and I were talking about was the idea of just because it's on the list doesn't mean you're the one who has to do it. Delegate it or outsource it. What on your list could somebody else do? I think there are people who will decorate your tree for you. Actually,
that would be people who would do anything for you. I think
I'm always envious of the people who get the dinners from the hotel for Christmas and Thanksgiving, and they just pick them up and bring them home. I mean, but those can be total lifesavers for you. And it's always amazing to me. I don't know if you've noticed this, but in my practice, when I'm working with, really stressed women, often in burnout, I will say things to them and I'll see their eyes light up, and it's like they just needed permission. I don't know why I'm the person from whom the permission is
forthcoming,
important or whatever. But I will say, well, why do you need to make all the meals? Why do you need to be the one who does that? Oh, because nobody else in my house will do it. Well, okay. Either start getting them to do it or order some meals in, or, come up with a different solution for that. Put some stuff in the freezer. Like, it is totally okay. For me, once or twice a week, there's something that gets pulled out of the freezer that is not made from scratch. It comes out, it gets thrown in the oven. Maybe someone throws a side salad with it, maybe not, depending on the night. But if that's what gets you through and allows you to actually take some time for yourself, then it's absolutely worth it.
If you love making Christmas dinner, go for it.
Yes.
Absolutely. My husband actually really likes doing that. I don't.
Energy drains versus energy gains. What fills your cup?
I would be buying stovetop stuffing, and my grandmother, who was very fancy lady, with a 20-person dining room table, like very formal, no elbows on the table for the kids. Very, very formal. My mom tells a story about being very intimidated by this woman. She was very intimidating. And when my mom was first married, and going out to the kitchen around Christmas dinner and opening the garbage and finding an empty box of powdered mashed potatoes.
Oh, funny.
And the whole time she'd, presented herself as if she'd created this beautiful meal herself. And there was like the equivalent back then of stovetop stuffing and powdered mashed potatoes.
And nobody noticed, and no one cared.
Nobody noticed and nobody cared.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
The moral, right?
How much does it really matter?
Mhm.
That, and if it matters to you and you enjoy doing it, then go for it. But if it's just another thing on your to-do list and nobody else is going to help you, then
well, and I also think sometimes we need to experiment with this, and it's okay to just try it on for size one year. For example, if there's a dish, a recipe, a side dish, maybe that you make always with Christmas dinner, and it feels like it's a tradition in your family. What happens if you don't make it one year? Does anybody notice? Does anyone care? I mean, I think a lot of the time we just make assumptions around what people are expecting and what matters to other people. And I have definitely found in the last couple of years with my kids that my assumptions about what matters to them are wrong a lot of the time. So experiment with it. My challenge that I throw out to anybody listening is take one big thing off the list this year, and just see if the sky falls and if anybody even notices.
And if they do notice it, are they willing to take it on themselves? Right.
Exactly.
So like my father complains that we never make the sweet potato pie with the marshmallows on top. Yeah. Oh God, he grew up with that. He loves it, always complains. And my answer is always, why don't you bring it next year?
Right.
You can eat it. Nobody else will. You go right ahead. Make yourself some sweet potato pie. And then it doesn't seem that important to him anymore because he doesn't want to make it.
The other thing we've been doing we have been doing this for years and years and years, because for a long time we had a huge family here, but slowly over time, people have kind of moved away. And now it's not a small crowd. We often have 12 or 15 people, but for a while there, it was more like 30, 32. We have always done potluck. We do potluck for Thanksgiving. We do potluck for Christmas dinner. So for example, if we cook the turkey at our house, we do the turkey and the stuffing. Everything else gets brought in.
Right.
People show up. My mom makes the cranberries and does the gravy. My sister, brings the mashed potatoes. Someone else brings carrots, and then someone's on for dessert. And that has been awesome. And we will continue doing that. I cannot even imagine. I don't know who these people are who are able to do all of it. That would just,
or who want to,
even just the turkey. Yeah. But the great thing about that is that you make your one thing that you got to make, and then you enjoy the rest of the day, and you show up with your dish, whatever it is you've been assigned. So I think that's also something to think about. If you've never done that, maybe this is the year you do potluck. And okay, what else did I want to talk about? We wanted to talk about
boundaries.
So
when you're looking at your list of what needs to be done, so maybe you need to host, some relatives.
Right.
Then what kind of boundaries can you set on that this year, where they might have come for a week beforehand? Perhaps this year you say, we've got a lot going on. Can you please just come for 3 days? Or can someone else host them for 3 days?
Maybe you can stay in a hotel.
Maybe you can stay in a hotel, or, something around creating boundaries. So it's a thing that needs to be done, but can you make it more comfortable for you? And does it fit better in your intention to actually put some boundaries around that?
Right. And what can you do for my people who are listening to this podcast, who are trying to change their habits? So for people who are working on maybe eating a little healthier or not drinking as much, what can you do to set yourself up for an easy time of it? Why should it be harder for you during the holidays to not drink? And how can you make it easier on yourself with that? If you have people coming to stay at your house, it is 100% within your rights. I'm telling you this. You have permission from me to say to them, we don't drink. So please don't, bring booze in the house. Or if you're like me, you can bring booze in the house, but I'm not going to supply it for you. And just to be clear, I don't drink. And then the pressure is completely off. I've made it very clear to people I don't drink. I don't need to worry about it. They can bring if they want to bring stuff. And this works for me. It doesn't work for everybody. For a lot of people, inviting people to stock your liquor cabinet when you don't drink is really, really challenging. So you've got to figure out what works for you. But it is totally okay to set boundaries. In fact, it is a necessary part of balance and wellness. And it's something that you need to learn how to do. And I'm going to throw this in because I throw this in every single time, because for whatever reason, this always motivates the moms out there. You have got to think about how you want your kids to be when they're your age and they're out there navigating the holidays. Do you want to show them that the holidays is all about never having a moment to yourself,
Yeah.
hating every second of it and drinking your way through it?
Mhm.
Or do you want to show them that the holidays are about spending time together, chilling out, giving yourself a break and a chance to catch up on everything that you've, been missing out on? And
that also applies to gift giving.
Yes.
Yeah. Like what do you want your kids to learn about gift giving? This kind of, definitely gotten caught up when they were younger in particular in the whole, halfway through the morning, they're bored. Right. Opening presents. And I'm thinking, what have I done?
What is wrong with this
This
picture?
is insane.
Yeah, I hear you.
And over the years, I've been kind of scaling it back. And I really like your 4 things. And I'm trying to apply that a little bit this year. And then next year, I'm going to set it out well before Christmas. I'm going to say, this is what I think we should do as a family, because we don't need to spend this kind of money. And we just don't need to be consumers just because it's Christmas time.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm telling you, it works so much better. So for those of you who don't know what Sarah's talking about, I've been talking about this now for a while on social media, and I think probably on a podcast at around this time last year. But I have been doing one thing to wear, one thing to read, one thing you want, and one thing you need with my kids, basically since they figured out that. Can I say this on the podcast? I'm not going to say it.
You know what we're talking about.
I don't want to spoil it, but once they some things about Christmas became clear to them, I started this idea of just these 4 things. And I said, look, this is going to be much more meaningful for you because you're going to think hard about this and you're going to have to choose from each of these categories, something that really means something to you, a book that you just really, really want to read and you look forward to reading over the holidays, something that, you really want, a piece of clothing that you really want, but that you wouldn't go out and spend your own hard-earned money on, or it's a little bit more expensive than you'd normally, spend on yourself. And then something that you need. So something that you're, you really, really need, right? My daughter's buying herself an iPad she has a job and she's buying herself an iPad this year for university, and she needs a pencil, whatever it's called, iPad pencil, Apple Pencil to go with it. So that will probably be her need thing this year. And then something that you want, just something that you want, that you don't need to justify it, but you want it. And I, by the way, put limits on dollars on all of these things too, because it's easy for even 4 things to get out of control. Yeah. But that has been really meaningful. And my kids really bought into it. I thought it was going to be a really hard sell, but I almost feel like it cut the noise for them around Christmas, with all these people asking them what they want. And they were able to just, focus in on these 4 things, and they'll start thinking about it now months before Christmas because they know they're just the 4 things. So that's, again, it's one thing to wear, one thing to read, one thing you want, and one thing you need. And that has been really, really helpful for me as well to do. A little bit, I want to talk just really quickly about the food stuff, because I have some ideas around, it can feel, for me anyway, one of the things I dislike the most about holidays is that I still have to cook.
No kidding.
And I am the primary cook in our house. I always have been. I enjoy it a lot of the time, but I don't when I'm on vacation. I want to actually be able to take a holiday and feel rested. So I will do a lot of the shortcuts that we just talked about. I will stock that freezer up in the basement with a bunch of pre-made meals and whatever else. I will ask my mom to make macaroni and cheese for us, which she does wonderfully, and put one of those in our freezer or bring it over one night. But the other thing that I do, and I've been doing this for years, is at the beginning of December, it's been a habit that I've gotten into. Whenever I am making a meal in the first couple of weeks of December, I double it. So I'll make a double soup, a double, casserole. If I'm making 1 casserole, I'll make 2. And it is more work in the first couple of weeks of December, obviously, but it just pays off like crazy when those 2 weeks come that I'm off and I can just pull a meal out of the freezer every night. Cause you can only eat frozen pizza so many nights in a row. And then it just doesn't start to feel, it's not feeling good to me anymore. So I like to be able to be healthy on my holiday as well. And that is something that I've been doing for a long time that really, really helps. If you're cooking vegetarian, you guys, you can freeze almost anything. The only things that don't freeze very well are pasta and milk-based things. Yeah, potatoes not as well.
They
but
get grainy.
Yeah. But you can freeze so much stuff. Legumes, like all lentils and beans and dishes freeze really, really well. Soups freeze really well. You can freeze obviously meat-based stuff as well, but doesn't last for as long. But if you have I call it a cook once, eat twice meal plan. And I have a bunch of them that I've used and given out over the years, various programs that I've done. And I'll just go back and find one of those. And those are all recipes that are freezer friendly, pretty easy to double. It's awesome. Yeah. I also do that if you're a family that does road trips to a cottage, or in the summertime you'll rent a place somewhere. Or if you like to ski and you go, maybe you drive down to the States to ski or something. I will do the cook once, eat twice week before that, and then take a bunch of frozen stuff wherever we're going.
That's great.
And throw it into
I'll be wanting all those recipes.
Yeah. I used to do it. Actually, we used to go to the States to ski a lot in the winter for, 5 or 6 days with our kids, and often some other families. My sister sometimes joined us, and I would bring a crock pot down and make crock pot meals in the, I'd heat the stuff up in the crock pot, and then we wouldn't always have to be relying on hotel food. It's a lot less expensive too. So, so I did want to talk about that. Anything else we've missed here? I don't think so. Creating traditions. I do want to talk about this.
Okay. You
can change your traditions. If there is a tradition that you do not enjoy, I challenge you to replace it with something that feels better to you. So, you might not enjoy it for a multitude of reasons. Maybe it's just not pleasurable. It's not fun for you, or maybe it doesn't fit in anymore with the type of life that you want to lead for yourself. So, I don't drink anymore. So a lot of the traditions that used to be a big part of the holidays for me are not the same.
Yeah.
And I'm totally okay with that. But I also really love a good tradition. And so trying to create traditions that don't involve alcohol, but that are really meaningful and fun for me has been part of what I've been doing over the last 4 years. So for example, we do a skating party almost every year. I don't know if we're going to do it this year. Because of COVID, it kind of had to take a back seat, but we used to invite just a ton of people. We'd rent out a rink, and I, along with my kids and my husband, would just make a bunch of batches of chocolate chip cookies and then get a big vat of hot chocolate and coffee from the Tim Hortons or whatever. And it's so much fun. And everyone comes for 2 hours and skates. And,
nice.
We all visit. It's so easy, and it's really not very expensive. And it's just a super fun party for me, which takes the pressure off of hosting a holiday thing where everyone expects and everyone's drinking, and it's a big, it just, that doesn't fit for me anymore. It doesn't work. So that was an example of shifting a tradition. The other thing that Sarah and I were talking about is, for me, the movies are awesome, because you can also, if a lot of your traditions involve a ton of work, you can also shift traditions into things that are actually, by their very definition, totally relaxing and no work. So movies for me are a big thing. Like every year we watch all of the Home Alone movies, the two that are actually any good. We watch those. And now that my kids are older, we also watch things like Love Actually, and I'll watch The Holiday with my daughter, some of those, just those, good, solid Christmas movies. Yeah. But that is just the tradition in that is that we turn the fireplace on, put the white lights on, put our pajamas and our reading socks on, get under the blanket. And that is that's the fun part of it. So again, no work, and it's right in alignment with my intention, which is to do as little as possible for the holidays. That's my intention. Perfect. Yeah. Did you have something that you wanted? I felt like you were about to say something.
No, the whole holiday thing just brings to mind the intervention that we had with my mom about, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, maybe more than that. My mom was the perfect homemaker, if you will, and everything had to be perfect. And I finally, it was a lot of work. She hated Christmas Day. Because of it. It was constant work for her, and she was always cranky. And I finally just said to her, you need to stop. You need to stop doing this, because it makes us miserable. You think it's making us happy,
Right.
but it's actually making us miserable because we see that you're miserable,
Right.
and there's tension because there's so much. So please, let's scale this down. Let's make it easier. I will bring half the food. We can stop with this, and this tradition that you
Right.
think is so important, that it actually doesn't matter to any of us.
Right.
And so, like, a really frank conversation with her. She was upset at first because she didn't know how to identify Christmas. She didn't know how to be any other way.
Right.
But over the years, it's morphed into something that is so manageable now for all of us that, you know, my dad is this year going to see my sister and her kids in Wakefield, and my mom is staying home, and she's not driving into the city to see us. She said, come up if you want or don't. And
Right.
so for her, she's been able to identify what she wants to do over
Great.
Christmas. But we had to have there had to be an intervention. And I invite you to have your own intervention with yourselves,
Right.
really, which is what are you doing this for? And does it matter to you? And does it matter to the people around you? Because there's a very good chance that it doesn't, as much as you think that it does. Well, not all of it, but some of, there are pieces of it that may not mean anything, and it may be causing a lot of stress.
Yeah, I love that. And, you know, I don't know if you said this already, Sarah, or whether this was when we were chatting before, but just this idea of, you know, if someone complains because something is missing, ask them to do it next year.
Yeah.
If this matters so much to you, and I'm not judging that it matters more to you than it does to me, but if it is meaningful and it matters to you, then why don't you take that on next year?
Yeah.
Because it's not as meaningful to me. And frankly, it's, you know, on my list of energy drains as opposed to energy gains, which is another great way to look at all your holiday tasks. Which of these things actually bring you joy and fill your cup, and which of these things drain it? And the things that drain it, make it your goal to remove as many of those things from your list as possible, either by deleting them entirely, delegating them to someone else, or scaling them back.
Good.
Yeah, just scaling them back. Exactly. Yeah. So hopefully that was helpful. We just wanted to pop in and do something around the holidays. And we hope that you have a wonderful holiday season, however you celebrate, and that it is actually restorative for you. Peaceful and restorative. That is what we wish for you. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
You've been listening to Bite Size Balance with your host, Wendy McCallum. As a burnout and balance coach, I help busy high achievers like you create a more balanced, joyful life. If you've been putting yourself last for way too long and are worried that you're burning out, grab your free burnout checklist at www.wendymccallum.com/checklist. That's www.wendymccallum.com/checklist.